Alright guys, welcome to my channel. I am iCanAccelerate and today we are going to learn about the basics of coding on Roblox. By the end of this video, hopefully you have a basic understanding of scripting so you can start making your own games soon. So let's get right into it. Alright, so real quick before we start, normally I would have my camera in the bottom left, but I was having some technical difficulties. I got into a fight with my camera and now we're no longer on speaking terms. So hopefully in the future the camera will come back, but for now it is not available. But regardless, we are going to start today on the base plate template. And when you open your studio, it might look something like mine, where there's just a lot of windows open. And just to show you what we need to have open, I'm going to close all the windows that I have, and we're going to show you the three most important windows to have open. So, the first window we want to have open is the Explorer, which is a list of everything in your game. So, for example, we have Workspace, which is a list of all the items in the world. So, for example, we have the spawn location, which is where we start in the world. We have the base plate, and that's all we have in our world right now, so that's that. But the next window we need is called Properties, which describes information about items that we have selected either through the game or through the Explorer. So you can see when I select the base plate, down here it shows me the color, the material, the size and position of it, and just a lot of different information about each part. And then the last window we want to have open is the output. The output gives us information about our scripts and other important information about what's happening in Studio. So we're going to be using this a lot today when we type our basic scripts. Alright, so now that we have all of our windows set up, we can start coding. So the first thing we're going to do is create a script. So what we want to do is we go over to our Explorer to Server Script Service. If we hover over it, you can see there's a very faint plus that you can see a little easier if I click on it. So if I click on Server Script Service and click plus, the first thing that it says is we should add a script. So if we click on this, it will bring us into the script interface. And right now, all it says is print hello world. And what this does is when we run our code, it'll say hello world, it'll move this down into the output. So, to run our code, what we want to do is not press play, but there's a little arrow below play. We want to click and press run. And what that'll do is it'll run our game without creating a character for us. So all it does is basically run our scripts in any sort of physics you would have. So, now you can see down in the bottom, we have hello world. And if I hover over it, it actually tells me what it came from, which is the server script service.script, which would be right here. But I'm going to press stop so we can go back to editing. And that is our first script. If you want, you can change hello world to say something else. So, for example, if I hover over this and type I love pizza, exclamation point, and I run it, we can see now that instead of saying hello world, it says I love pizza. And you can change this to anything you want. Real quick, I'm just going to erase this print statement. And we're going to talk about variables. So a variable is basically a name that holds a value. So for example, I can type number equals 10. So number is the name of our variable. This can be anything. I could call it number, I could call it 10, I could call it XD, I can call it whatever I want, but for our purposes, just to keep ourselves organized, we're going to call it number. And 10 is the value of this number. Not this number. 10 is the value of this variable. So I could change it to be 15, 10, 5, 3.14. I can't change it to XD because that's not a number as far as I know. But we'll set it to 5 for now. But now what we can do is I'm going to real quick just print this variable. So if I type print number, what it'll do is it won't actually print the word number like it printed hello world before. It'll print the value of the number. So if I press play, it will print out 5 in the output. So you can do lots of stuff with this. So for example, I could do number equals 5 plus 5, and it will give me the sum of 5 and 5, which hopefully you know will be 10. And you can do a bunch of different math like this. There's a bunch of different types of variables. This first one that we just talked about is obviously called a number. Numbers can take any form, so we can do whole numbers like 5, we can do 3.14, we can do division, so like 1/2, stuff like that. The next type of variable we're going to talk about is called a Boolean, which is either a value of true or false. So we can say fact equals true and fiction equals false. We'll talk a little more about these later. The last type of variable I want to talk about is called a string. So we could, if we typed, for example, hello equals and then quotation marks, hello world like it was formatted before. A string is basically all the letters and symbols inside of these quotes. So if I type print hello, it would just print hello world out for us because it takes what's in these quotes and just puts it in there. So strings are pretty simple. They're just groups of words and symbols. So next we're going to talk about loops. A loop is a piece of code that tells our computer to repeat an action. So we're only going to cover 2 basic loops in this video today, but there are others that we'll explore later on in the channel. The first loop that we're going to talk about is called a while true do loop. So if I type at the top while true do and press enter, it will create end at the end of the code. And what this does is it will infinitely repeat everything between the while true do and the end. So for example, if I type print hello world, it will infinitely print hello world. But something to keep in mind when we have infinite loops like this is we need to have a wait in it, or else it will crash the server because the server is receiving too many commands at once. So to do that, we just at the bottom we type wait 1, and this will wait for 1 second. So now if I run it, we can see that it'll print hello world once a second. So it says that it's received hello world 6 times, 7 times, and 8 times, and every second it will increase by 1. So the next loop we're going to talk about is a for loop. So I'm going to start just by typing for I equals 1 comma 5 do. And so what this does is it creates this variable I which stores the value 1, and every time the loop runs it'll increase the value of I by 1 until it reaches 5. So if let's say I print I and then wait 1. So if we run it, you see it'll print 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. So all this does is it goes through 5 times and it'll run all the code inside. So if I wanted to say print hello world, and since this one is not infinite, we do not need a wait. It's nice to have, but you don't need it, so I'm just going to show you that it'll instantly 5 times it'll print hello world for us. So the last thing we're going to talk about today are if statements. If statements are formatted as if something, then do something else. So let me type out an example real quick. So let's say tasty equals true, okay? And if we type if tasty then and press enter, we want to print because that's what we do when things are tasty, we say So now if I run my code while tasty is true, it'll print out But now if I stop my code and I change tasty to false, which is the opposite of true, it will print out nothing. There is nothing there. So an if statement will only run if the value of whatever we type in here is true. So if I change this back to true, it will go back to printing So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, even though it wasn't the most exciting content. It was fundamentals. But now that we've got them down, we can start working on more advanced projects in the future. So subscribe to stay tuned for some of those. And if you have any requests for games I should play on Roblox, or if you want a tutorial on how to make something on Roblox, please leave a comment and I will try to respond and make a video about it. So if you enjoyed, like the video and subscribe. I'm going to try and start uploading more often here, so definitely stay tuned for that. See ya. Recording this again because my computer hates me. I am literally begging you to work, like please. I don't know what else to ask. I try hard, you do not record audio. Oh, is this chair gonna be in the frame? I probably should have moved that. Hi, it's me from the future, and I can't believe you left this ugly green cable plugged in the entire time. Now you have to reshoot everything. But you won't, because you're lazy. Cue the intro. Hope people enjoy the shoddy setup I have. It's not great.